All right, today we're diving into the epic story of Sun Wu, one of the legendary three kingdoms of China. This is a tale of a dynasty that was literally forged on the water, a kingdom built on the mighty Yangtze River, defined by incredible ambition and, of course, naval power. Let's get right into it.
So this is really the central question, isn't it? It's that classic story of a spectacular rise and a tragic fall. But what's so fascinating here is that the biggest threat to Sun Wu wasn't some invading army from the outside. No, it was a conflict brewing inside the palace walls. So how did a kingdom so powerful on the water end up, well, drowning in its own family drama?
You see, before any of the three kingdoms could rise, the old empire had to fall. And for 400 years, the Han Dynasty had been the absolute center of the Chinese world. But by the end of the 2nd century, it was completely coming apart at the seams.
What's just wild to me is how fast this all happened. I mean, we're talking less than a decade. It starts with a massive peasant uprising, the Yellow Turban Rebellion, that shakes the empire to its core. Then, boom, a military coup in the capital by the tyrant Dong Zhuo. And when the other warlords tried to team up against him, that coalition just fell apart into a total free-for-all, with everyone fighting to grab their own piece of the crumbling pie.
So what does this all mean? It means the mandate of heaven, the very idea that gave the emperor his right to rule, was gone. With no central government left, a massive power vacuum opened up. And, that kind of chaos is the perfect environment for ambitious families and brilliant generals to step in and try to carve out their own destinies.
And right into this chaos steps the Sun family. While all the big-name warlords were battling it out over the traditional heartland of China up north, the Suns looked south. They saw opportunity in the rich, developing lands below the Yangtze River.
The foundation of Wu was really built by 2 generations. First, you have the father, Sun Jian. He was a respected general under the old Han Dynasty, and he built the family's military reputation. But after he dies, his son, Sun Ce, takes that legacy and just runs with it. This kid was charismatic, he was aggressive, and in a truly brilliant campaign, he conquered the whole Jiangdong region, giving his family the heartland they desperately needed.
But then, just as things are looking up, tragedy strikes. At the absolute height of his power, Sun Ce is assassinated, and his entire domain, all his armies, his officials, it all suddenly falls onto the shoulders of his younger brother, Sun Quan. And get this, Sun Quan was only 18 years old. He was completely untested, and honestly, a lot of people thought his new little state wouldn't last the year. But Sun Quan was about to prove every single one of them wrong. He wasn't just going to hold on to what his brother built. He was going to forge it into a real-deal empire that would stand for more than 50 years. His journey from this untested kid to a shrewd, calculating emperor is pretty remarkable. His first huge test came in 208 CE. The northern warlord Cao Cao came down with this enormous army, planning to just crush everyone in his path. But at a place called Red Cliffs, Sun Quan's alliance with another warlord, Liu Bei, used fire and incredible strategy on the water to absolutely decimate Cao Cao's bigger force. This one single naval victory secured the south and basically guaranteed that China was going to be split into 3 kingdoms. Sun Quan's path to the throne was just a masterclass in patience. Seriously, he spent 2 whole decades locking down his power base, recruiting the smartest people he could find, and managing that crucial alliance with Liu Bei. He even played politics, accepting the title of king from his northern rival just to buy himself a little more time. And then finally, in 229, when he was totally secure, he made his move and declared himself the first emperor of Wu. And under Emperor Sun Quan, Wu entered its golden age. His long reign brought a level of stability that was unheard of at the time. He built a navy that turned the Yangtze River into both a fortress and a superhighway for trade. Industries like shipbuilding just boomed, and Wu's influence stretched all the way down south. For a while there, it was probably the most prosperous kingdom in all of China. But you know how it is, golden ages rarely last forever. As Sun Quan got older, the very success and stability that he had built started to unravel. And the cause wasn't an invading army. It was a conflict brewing right inside his own family. And this, right here, is the fatal flaw. Sun Quan completely failed to manage his own succession. A bitter rivalry between 2 of his sons basically split the entire court into hostile factions.
The result was a political firestorm. We're talking depositions, forced suicides, constant infighting that just poisoned the government for decades to come.
After Sun Quan died, the throne itself pretty much became a curse. First, a child emperor gets overthrown by his own regent. Then, his successor has to kill that same regent just to get power, only to die a few years later. The pattern was this clear, vicious cycle of coups and weak rulers that left the entire state dangerously fragile.
The final emperor, Sun Hao, was really the nail in the coffin. The man was paranoid, cruel, and just wildly incompetent. He was more interested in his own pleasures than running the state, and he alienated all his best officials and earned the hatred of his people. The kingdom of Wu, once so prosperous, was now just rotting from the inside out.
So while Wu was completely consumed by its own internal drama, the world outside was changing. A new, more ruthless power was consolidating its strength in the north, and time was running out.
First, in 263, the kingdom of Shu, Wu's longtime ally, was conquered by the northern kingdom of Wei. That three-way balance of power that had defined the era for half a century was shattered. Suddenly, Wu stood all alone.
Then, just 2 years later, the Wei kingdom itself fell to an internal coup. The powerful Sima family, who had been running things behind the scenes, seized the throne for themselves. They established the new and incredibly ambitious Jin dynasty. They now controlled the entire north, and they had one single goal: total reunification. By 280, the end was inevitable. The Jin dynasty launched a massive invasion, and Wu, demoralized and terribly led by the tyrant Sun Hao, put up very little resistance. The last of the three kingdoms surrendered, and the era finally came to a close.
After nearly 100 years of brutal division and warfare that had cost millions and millions of lives, the empire was finally whole again. The legendary age of the three kingdoms was over. Which leaves us with one final question to think about. Sun Wu had a strong economy, a powerful navy, and a very defensible homeland on the river. It wasn't brought down by an outside force, it was brought down by its own internal decay. So you have to wonder, if Sun Quan had just managed his succession better, if his heirs had been strong and united, could the Southern Empire have actually survived? We'll never know.